Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Mbsj. I will be talking about 2.1 population size and socio-demographic profile. Majlis Bandaraya Subang Jaya or Mbsj is one of the most urbanized and densely populated municipalities in Selangor and the Klang Valley. Based on the Rancangan Tempatan Subang Jaya 2035, the municipality has a population of over 800,000 residents, and this figure is projected to continue increasing towards 2035 due to ongoing urban development and redevelopment activities. The population within Mbsj is largely concentrated in major townships such as Subang Jaya, USJ, Puchong, Bandar Sandway, Seri Kembangan, and Kinrara. These areas are characterized by high-density residential and mixed-use developments, which place increasing pressure on transportation system and public facilities. From a socio-demographic perspective, Mbsj is dominated by a working-age population, reflecting its role as an important employment hub in the Klang Valley. Key employment areas such as Bandar Sandway and Subang High-Tech Industrial Park attract high levels of daily commuting, which contributes to traffic congestion, particularly during peak hours. In addition, Mbsj hosts a significant student population due to the presence of major higher education institutions such as Sunway University, Taylor's University, and Monash University in Malaysia. Overall, the population size and socio-demographic characteristic of Mbsj highlight the importance of integrated land use and transportation planning to support efficient, accessible, and sustainable mobility within the municipality.
For Section 2.2, this part focus on transportation network and infrastructure in Majlis Bandaraya Subang Jaya under the Rancangan Tempatan Subang Jaya 2035. Firstly, transportation is one of the largest land use in Mbsj, with about 29.6% of the total land area, or around 1,094 hectares. This shows that transportation plays a major role in supporting mobility, economic activities, and daily urban movement in Subang Jaya. RTFJ emphasizes a multimodal transportation network that integrates road-based and rail-based system. Public transport such as the LRT, MRT, and the BRT Sunway lines connect key residential, commercial, and institutional area. These rail services are supported by feeder bus to improve last-mile connectivity and make public transport more accessible to nearby neighborhoods. One important focus is transit-oriented development or TOD, which integrate transportation with land use planning. TOD encourage high-density and mixed-use development within 500 to 1,000 meters of transit station. In Mbsj, TOD is organized into three zones, which are Transit Station Development, Transit Adjacent District, and Transit Environmental District. The main goal of TOD is to reduce dependence on private vehicle, reduce traffic congestion, and promote more efficient land use. Lastly, Mbsj is supported by major highways such as Kesas, LDP, NPE, Elite, SKVE, and MEX, which provide regional connectivity within the Klang Valley. However, RTSJ 2035 clearly highlights that road infrastructure should support public transport rather than encourage private car usage. Overall, the transportation network in Mbsj is planned to create a connected, accessible, and sustainable urban environment by 2035.
Okay, thank you. Now I will be discussing zoning regulations and land use designation under the Subang Jaya Local Plan. This is prepared by the Majlis Bandaraya Subang Jaya. These zoning regulations are guided by the Town and Country Planning Act 1976, also known as Act 172, which forms the foundation of planning control in Malaysia. Based on Jilid 1 RTSJ 2035, Mbsj classifies all land within Subang Jaya into major zoning categories such as residential, commercial, and industrial, with further subcategories according to specific land uses. The main purpose of this zoning system is to ensure compatibility between land uses and to prevent conflicts. For example, residential areas are planned away from heavy industrial zones to reduce exposure to pollution, noise, and traffic hazard, which helps to protect the quality of living environment. The implementation of this zoning regulation is governed by Jilid 2, which focus on development control. Development control includes regulation on allowable density, building height, plot ratio and types of permitted development. This control ensures that the intensity of development matches the capacity of existing infrastructure and urban services. In residential areas, density control is applied to prevent overcrowding and to ensure that facilities such as road, draining system and community service are sufficient. High-density development are only allowed in areas with adequate transportation access. Commercial zones are also tightly regulated, especially in high-activity areas such as Bandar Sunway and Subang Jaya Town Centre. Finally, while zoning control land use and development intensity, issues related to design quality are addressed in Jilid 4 of RTSJ 2035. These include guidelines on building design, landscaping, pedestrian circulation and buffer zone. By integrating urban design control with zoning regulations, Mbsj strengthens statutory planning control and supports more sustainable and livable urban development. That's all from me.
Thank you. I will now continue the presentation by explaining Section 2.4 Sustainable Transportation Policies under the Rancangan Tempatan Subang Jaya 2035. The first key strategy is Transit-Oriented Development or TOD. TOD is used to reduce reliance on private vehicles and lower greenhouse gas emissions by concentrating high-density and mixed-use developments around public transport stations such as LRT, BRT, MRT and commuter rail. By locating housing, employment and services within walking distance of transit nodes, residents can meet their daily needs without depending heavily on private cars. This approach supports compact urban growth and improves the overall efficiency of the transport system. The second strategy focuses on integrated transport networks and travel demand management. RTSJ 2035 strengthens first and last mile connectivity through feeder bus services, pedestrian pathways and cycling infrastructure to ensure that public transport is accessible from surrounding neighborhoods. In addition, parking demand management policies are introduced in TOD areas where minimum parking requirements can be reduced by up to 30%. This discourages excessive car use, encourages public transport usage, and enhances walkability and urban placemaking. The third strategy is emphasis low carbon and inclusive mobility. Sustainable transport is supported by environmental measures such as tree planting along major roads and green infrastructure around transit corridors to reduce urban heat and improve air quality. Road safety audits and traffic calming measures are also implemented to protect vulnerable road users. Furthermore, the plan promotes social inclusion by encouraging affordable housing near transit areas and applying universal design standards to pedestrian and transport facilities, ensuring accessibility for the elderly, persons with disabilities, children, and low-income groups. In conclusion, the sustainable transportation policies in RTSJ 2035 aim to reduce car dependency, minimize environmental impacts, and improve accessibility for all users. These integrated strategies play a crucial role in supporting long-term sustainable mobility and enhancing the quality of urban life in Subang Jaya. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Farhan Iskandar, and for this section I will explain about the public spaces and accessibility based on the RTSJ 2035 by Majlis Bandaraya Subang Jaya. Firstly, RTSJ 2035 emphasizes that public spaces are not leftover land but function as green infrastructure. These include planned parks, plazas and open spaces that are intentionally designed to support recreations, social interactions and community activities. At the same time, they play an important environmental role by contributing to urban cooling and flood control, which is crucial for a highly urbanized city like Subang Jaya. Next, we have the plan introduces the Green and Blue Corridor Network, which connect parks, rivers and green areas into a continuous open space system. A key example is the Air Hitam Forest Reserve, which forms part of this network. This approach ensures that green spaces are not isolated but interconnected, supporting walking, cycling, and also ecological sustainability, while also improving public access to nature. So next one is in transit oriented development areas, TOD. Mbsj has increases the provision of public open spaces to 15% of the net development area. So these spaces act as breathing spaces such as shaded plazas and linear parks, and are strategically located at the front of developments to ensure they are visible, welcoming, and accessible to the public. And lastly, accessibility is addressed through universal design following nation standard MS 1184/2014. The design ensures inclusivity for the elderly, children, and persons with disabilities. Key standards include walkways with a minimum width of 2.1 meters, obstruction-free paths, tactile paving for the visually impaired, and ramps with a slope of 112 width. Overall, RTSJ 2035 integrates green infrastructure and inclusive design to create accessible, sustainable, and livable public spaces for all residents of Subang Jaya. Thank you. I'll give it to the next presenter.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Khalili, and for this section, I will evaluate the impacts of the Subang Jaya Local Plan 2035 and its alignment with the National Physical Plan or NPP. The National Physical Plan emphasizes compact urban development, sustainable transportation, environmental sustainability, and inclusive accessibility. Based on this, the impacts of RTSJ 2035 can be summarized into 4 key areas. First, in terms of compact and integrated urban development, RTSJ 2035 strongly support the NPP through the use of transit-oriented development. High density and mixed-use developments are concentrated near LRT and MRT station, which help reduce urban sprawl and make better use of existing urban land. This approach also shortens daily travel distance, saving time and cost for residents. Second, for sustainable transportation planning, the local plan prioritizes public transport such as LRT, MRT, BRT, and feeder bus services. By integrating land use with transport planning, RTSJ 2035 encourage people to shift from private cars to public transport. This improves overall connectivity and help reduce traffic congestion, especially during peak hours. Third, in terms of environmental sustainability and low carbon development, the focus on public transport, walking and cycling reduces fuel consumption and carbon emission. The plan also protects green spaces and environmentally sensitive areas, which support the development of low carbon and climate resilient city. Finally, regarding inclusive development and accessibility, RTSJ 2035 improves pedestrian infrastructure and access to public transport. It supports universal design principle, benefiting elderly and disabled users, and provides better access to jobs, education, and public facilities. This also helps reduce transport cost burden for low-income groups. Overall, RTSJ 2035 shows strong alignment with the National Physical Plan by translating national planning objective into practical and sustainable local level strategies.
Hi, my name is Mbsj and I will present about the challenges and recommendations. First, I will explain the main challenges. The first challenge is the high dependency on private cars. Even though LRT, MRT and BRT service are available, many residents still prefer to drive because it is more comfortable and flexible. This causes traffic congestion and reduces the effectiveness of transit-oriented development. Second challenge is weak last-mile connectivity. Some residential and activity areas do not have enough safe walkways, cycling paths or feeder buses. This makes it difficult for students, elder people and people with disabilities to reach public transport stations. The third challenge is limited land in Mbsj. As a highly urbanized city, most land has already been developed. High density development around transit stations can lead to overcrowding and pressure on public facilities and infrastructure. The fourth challenge is weak enforcement and coordination. If zoning rules, parking controls and TOD policies are not strictly followed, the goals of RTSJ and National Physical Plan cannot be achieved. Now I will explain about the recommendations. First, Mbsj should improve public transport quality by increasing the frequency, reliability and comfort of LRT, MRT, BRT and feeder bus services. Fare integration should also be improved to make public transport more attractive. Second, last mile connectivity should be strengthened by providing more shaded walkways, safe crossings, cycling paths and feeder buses, especially in transit-oriented development areas. Third, high-density development in TOD areas must be properly controlled. There must be enough public facilities, green spaces and infrastructure to avoid overcrowding. Fourth, brownfield and underused land should be prioritized for a new development to reduce pressure on new land. Fifth, stronger monitoring and enforcement is needed so that development approvals, parking standards and transport impacts follow RTSJ and the National Physical Plan. Finally, public awareness programs should be introduced to educate residents and developers on sustainable transport and land use planning.